intelligence, this ego, or some definition like, you know, I am from New Jersey, you know, or any identification with anything but my real self. And that's our first platform, is that the real self is consciousness. Not the body, not the mind, not the intelligence, not the ego, not the name, not the occupation, not the color or the religion or the race or the country. None of that is the self. The self is consciousness. Consciousness is the bottom line. Consciousness is the real thing. And everything else is related to consciousness. So you're watching this thing because you're conscious. Consciousness means that I am aware that I am aware. Okay? And consciousness requires a foreground and a background. Always. I've given the example so many times. The black cat in the black room at night. You won't see. You can't see. Because there's no contrast between the black cat and the rest of the room and the background. But you take the same black cat, you put in a white room at noon, you can easily see. Effortlessly. Why? Because there's a foreground and a background, and there's contrast. So this is another reason why the monistic theory is bunk. Because monism says there is no difference. There is no contrast. There's no foreground, no background. It's all one. There's no difference between the consciousness and the object of the consciousness, is what they're saying. So if there's no difference, then there's no consciousness. Because consciousness depends on difference for its operation. There has to be duality. Duality cannot be an illusion. Otherwise, our consciousness is also an illusion. And that's unacceptable. Because consciousness is the basic experience. Being conscious is the fundamental experience. And all other experiences are related to that fundamental experience. Without the experience of consciousness, no other experience has any meaning. If I knock you on the head and knock you out, and during the time that you're unconscious, you don't have any experience. Then later on, when you wake up, you can remember, oh, I was unconscious. But you can't remember anything else during that period. That's because the mind and the intelligence were not functioning at that time. So without consciousness, there is no other experience to recall or to be aware of. Consciousness is the fundamental experience. So then the question becomes, consciousness of what? What is the object of my consciousness? Consciousness is like a mirror. Bring a mirror. When you put something in front of a mirror, it's on top now. When you put something in front of a mirror, the mirror reflects it accurately. I'm going to demonstrate. There you are. Oops. So you put the mirror in front of the camera, the mirror reflects the camera. If I put the mirror in front of the light, the mirror reflects the light. You see? Is the mirror a light? No. Is the mirror a camera? No. But it takes on the qualities of those things because that's what a mirror does. It simply reflects whatever is in front. It doesn't care what the qualities of those things are. It simply reflects. Consciousness is like that. Whatever we direct our consciousness towards, consciousness will reflect that. And then that's what we experience. And who else is going to determine what the object of our consciousness is, except for us? We have the choice to direct our consciousness in a particular way. This is another fundamental fact. We can think of this, we can think of that. We have a choice. Nothing is forcing us to think of one thing or another. Nothing is forcing us to look at one thing or another. We have free will, free choice, given to us by God. This is fundamental. Why? Because the functions of the consciousness, or the symptoms of consciousness, include personality, individuality, identity, will, desire, emotions, thinking, the mind, all of these secondary symptoms of consciousness. And the proof is that when we go unconscious, all these other functions stop at the same time. Or when the soul leaves the body at death, all these other functions immediately cease, simultaneously. So those functions are secondary symptoms of the soul, and the primary symptom is consciousness. So this consciousness can be directed towards this or that, and it will take on the qualities of whatever it's directed towards. When we direct our consciousness towards material energy, it takes on the qualities of the material energy. And when we direct it towards spiritual energy, it takes on the qualities of the spiritual energy. Actually, consciousness is already spiritual. Everybody is having a spiritual experience at every moment, because being conscious is the symptom of the soul. It is a spiritual quality of the soul. So, as long as we're conscious, we are actually experiencing something spiritual. But because we direct our consciousness at the sense objects through the body, we're accepting material qualities. And our consciousness also reflects these material qualities. And one of the material qualities is you can't change. You're not conscious. Just like, any material object. It's not conscious. It can't change. It can't do anything. It's just a lump of matter. It's inert. So, if we direct our consciousness towards material things, we will take on these material, or the consciousness will take on these material qualities, and we think, I can't change my consciousness. I can't do anything about my consciousness. I'm just an effect. Just a material object. I can't do anything. Well, this is completely bogus. This is a total illusion. This is the illusion of material existence. Darn mosquito. But when our consciousness is directed towards something spiritual, it takes on spiritual qualities, or actually its natural spiritual qualities come out. So when we direct our consciousness towards itself, then we realize ourself, and this is called self-realization. See, it's simple. So who determines where your consciousness is directed? You do. Nobody else. This is why we meditate. We go in a quiet room, all alone, shut the door, sit down, close the senses, go inside, isolate consciousness, and then we turn the consciousness back toward itself. You can do this with consciousness. You can't do this with the camera. The camera can't take a picture of itself. My eyes can't see themselves. But with consciousness we can, because consciousness is reflective. It's reflexive. It's self-referential. In other words, you can have consciousness of consciousness. It's like a feedback loop. Like if I take two mirrors and put them in front of each other, you see one mirror reflects the other mirror, reflects the other mirror, reflects the other mirror, and then it looks like this this set of mirrors going back, 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 back. That's feedback. So consciousness can reflect itself. Consciousness can illuminate itself. And you'd be surprised if you just try this. Just sit down for 5 minutes, close your eyes, and try to be conscious of your consciousness. And if you can get the mind and all that other distraction out of the way and really perceive your own consciousness, you will experience joy. Because one of the natural qualities of spiritual consciousness is bliss. Spiritual consciousness is Sat, Chit, and Ananda. It has these three attributes. Sat means eternal existence. Chit means knowledge, or consciousness itself. Not symbolic knowledge, not mental knowledge.